Hi everyone, my name is Sally Fowler. I'm the owner and trainer for Disabled Advantage Dog Training. Thank you for joining me on my Patreon tier behind the scenes of training Robbie and Austin. Robbie and Austin have been my personal service dogs that I've trained myself, and in this short audio file, I'm going to talk a little bit about training Robbie, because training Robbie was very different from training Austin. The biggest thing to know about training Robbie and the videos that you're going to see in this tier are that I'm going to do my best to add captions and add voice overlay and point out where I'm making mistakes and explain how I've changed and how I do things differently now. But there are going to be things that I miss and things that you might look at and see and go, oh my God, she made a mistake. And oh my God, yes, I did. And the reason I'm sharing these old videos of training Robbie is, first of all, to show you the evolution that I went through as a trainer and to show you that I made a ton of mistakes on the way to getting to where I am, to reassure you that making mistakes is definitely part of the process. And I feel like other people can learn from my mistakes, because you might also see the mistakes that I'm making, and seeing me do them, you might have an aha moment of, oh crap, I make that mistake all the time. I wonder if that's why we're having trouble with this. And so you're going to see, when you watch the videos of me training Robbie, you're going to see a lot more handler mistakes than you will in the videos of me training Austin. I made plenty of mistakes training Austin, but I was more aware of what I was doing with my body and my voice and my timing, and I was better at it, and I had a plan, and I largely wasn't making it up as I went. Whereas when I trained Robbie, Robbie was the first dog I really trained for real. I had a childhood dog when I was little, and I took her to a training class, but my follow-through was terrible, and we weren't actually taught how to make anything happen effectively with our dogs. We were just sort of taught, like, words were thrown at us and we tried them and we passed the class because she wasn't a complete jerk, but she really wasn't a well-behaved, responsive dog. Robbie was the first time I'd committed myself to figuring out how to train a dog. And when I was working with Robbie, I was trying to take as many of my horse training principles and abilities at the time and apply them to training Robbie to the best of my ability. You know, thinking about how I would do something with a horse and then how I needed to change it to meet whatever goal I was trying to reach with Robbie. I was also working with a local general pet dog trainer to help guide me and give me a map, so to speak, to follow in training Robbie. But the trainer we were working with was not experienced with service dogs. He was at the very end of retirement. We were actually his last client. He only took me on because I had ridden horses, and so he knew I would work hard at this. But he gave us a very expedited training program with Robbie, and so I was attempting to teach Robbie about 30 commands all at once right from the beginning. And I was spending probably 60 hours a week training Robbie. He was my full-time job. I didn't have any other responsibilities. I was in a lot of pain from my CRPS, so sometimes you'll see me holding myself a little weird when I'm maneuvering him or guiding him. And like every ounce of my time went into training Robbie. And it was good because it meant that we were able to train Robbie faster, but it was also bad because it meant we put Robbie under a lot of pressure to learn as quickly as possible and to learn as many different things as possible. And so there were times where he got overwhelmed or stressed out, and he was asked to just keep going because I was still also learning dog body language cues at the same time. So there were times where he was telling me he needed a break or he needed more direction, and I simply didn't understand. And so you're going to see that in some of these videos as well. Moments where I should have stopped or pulled back or changed my approach, or I should have pushed forward and I stopped instead. Like, training Robbie was, the first 2 years of training Robbie was a crash course in dog training and in being a good dog owner, being a responsible dog owner, and learning about dogs all at once. I, day in, day out, read books on dogs, studied what my dog trainer sent me, worked on training Robbie, took video of training Robbie, watched videos of training Robbie. Like, I threw myself all in it. And looking back at it, by the time we reached year 3 of training Robbie, I'd figured out, oh, this doesn't work, but this does work. This had really good success results. Let's change this and this. Halfway through being partnered with Robbie was when I decided to start Disabled Advantage, and I wrote my lesson plans based on looking back at how I trained Robbie and what worked or what didn't work, and how I wish it had been structured for me. And so the training that Austin got was a slower pace. It was more measured. It was way more structured. He learned a lot of stuff at once, but he was learning like 5 commands at once, and then also learning manners and agility and balance on top of those 5 commands, as opposed to trying to learn 30 commands and balance and skills and manners and socialization all at once. You can do it that way, but it's a lot of additional stress on you and the dog. And so training Austin and Robbie were different. They were laid out different. The commands are the same, but you will see differences. And like I said, you are going to see more mistakes when I'm training Robbie. And it's not that I'm a bad dog trainer. It's just that I'm going to be purely honest with you. A lot of the videos I took of Robbie, especially in the first 2 years of training Robbie were 9 years ago. So I've changed a lot as a trainer. I've grown, I've learned more, I've gotten better, I've developed my skills better. And the first 2 years of training Robbie were also the first 2 years of me learning how to be a dog trainer. And mistakes happened. So many mistakes. And the difference too in Robbie and Austin is that Robbie they're both working breeds, or they're both conglomerations of working breeds, but Robbie had weird moments of high drive and then really, really slow, almost zero drive. Austin pretty much wants to go all the time. Both dogs were very stubborn, but when Austin gets stubborn, he leaves or does zoomies, or what I call happy tantrums, where he tries to do the best that he possibly can and love you harder, which lends him towards making more mistakes. Whereas when Robbie didn't want to do something, he would just sit there and stare at you like, screw you, I'm not doing that, make me. And so I did have to approach training a little differently between the two boys. And you're also going to see the evolution of Robbie. So early Robbie and then later on Robbie. You're not going to see step-by-step instructions. You're more going to see snapshots of how Robbie's training was progressing. That's because at that time I wasn't filming for the intent of teaching other people. I was filming for the intent of being able to prove that I'd put time into training my service dog. So that's a little bit different from some of Austin's videos as well. I also routinely, for both dogs, the videos are training combos where I'm working on multiple different commands at once. That's almost always how I structure my training sessions with my dogs so that they don't get bored. Very rarely will I do a training session where it's just one command, and that may only be if I don't have very much energy, I don't have very much time, or it's something really hard that's going to tax the dog's brain. Let's see, what else about training Robbie? Some of the approaches for training Robbie were things that I didn't personally agree with or feel great about, but I was being told to do it by an outside trainer, and he was very old school, and he was very, you can do it my way or you can leave. And he put a lot of pressure on us to get things done in a set amount of time. And that's something that I've changed too, is I don't rush my clients. I have a set amount of time, but I'm willing to be flexible and take a look at what can get advanced and what needs to have more focus so that the team isn't being rushed to meet unexpected or being rushed to meet unrealistic timelines of training. But both dogs came with basic programming of sit, down, come, loose leash walking, and leave it. And with both dogs, we completely redid all of the training that their previous owners and shelters had done because it wasn't the caliber of training we needed for service dog work. And I needed the dog to learn how I was going to teach them and how I was going to be communicating with them. And learning easy things like sit and down was a really great platform for teaching the dog how to listen to me and how I was going to communicate with them, as opposed to jumping right in with really hard commands like off-leash heel or jumping into tasks all of a sudden and then finding out the dog had cracks in their obedience training later on. I also don't have videos of all of Robbie's training. Some of his I didn't film for whatever reason, whereas there are a lot more videos of Austin. So if you have any questions about the videos of me training Robbie, please leave comments, ask me questions. I'm more than happy to answer any question you have about a training Robbie video. And like I said, where I can, I'll try and point out mistakes and explain how I would do them differently now. Thank you for signing up.